Welcome back to What Gets Measured, a NinjaCat podcast about marketing, performance management, metrics, and effectiveness, because what gets measured gets managed. I'm your host, Jake Sanders, joined as always by Jessica Grazer, the VP of Marketing here at NinjaCat. Experience can feel like a safeguard until the numbers suddenly tell a different story. Angeline Corvaglia learned that early in her career when her instincts clashed with the data, and the cost of delay was real. A former CFO turned founder and data safety advocate, Angeline brings a grounded, hard-earned perspective to a moment when data and AI shape decisions at scale. Our conversation centers on a simple, urgent idea. Data is never neutral, and in the age of AI, what we fail to question matters as much as what we measure. Whether you're into data, ethics, marketing, finance, or even turtles, you're going to want to hear this chat, so let's go! Angeline Corvaglia, thank you for coming on the show. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
We're in the right time. We're in the right time zone, right?
We
Everybody,
are. Yeah.
we are.
We made it.
Barely.
Well, thank you for joining us all the way from Italy. Questions about all of the wonderful things you're doing. I guess we should start at the beginning. How did you first get into data? Because not everybody's into it.
Right? Yeah.
But what drove your shift? Because you had experience in operations and analytics, and now you've shifted into advocacy and transformation education. So talk about how you got started and then how it pivoted.
Okay. Well, I've always been a numbers person, always. Yeah. And once I got into business, I naturally got into controlling. That just happened. I was just good at it. And I happened to get good at see it, and I became a CFO, basically, long story short. And
Yes.
I was like a modern CFO that has the data office, because I was working in a financial institution, and there, like, traditional CFOs don't care much about the data office, but I was a modern one. I cared a lot, and I really loved analytics. I really loved taking the data, and obviously the team put it in data and data warehouses and getting the numbers out and seeing things that I hadn't seen. I saw it as kind of an adventure. It sounds silly. I actually have one example that where I learned the power of data is once a guy came to me and said, like, the trends are going down, like our numbers are going down. And I said, no, they're not. And he said, but they are. I did the analysis and they are. And I didn't believe him. And I just believed my instinct because the numbers were saying something different. Very unfortunate. Our company was like a tanker that if you turn it, it turns very slowly. It took
I've seen
me
that. Yeah.
a year and a half to realize that he was right. And by yeah, so this was the biggest, really biggest moment where I realized, wow, the power of data, that to not follow your instincts always, you have to sometimes follow the numbers.
I feel like people always think marketing is the art and science, but who knows? CFO, art and science, also instinct and
Just a
reality.
bit, right? When it clashes. But
Yeah.
so you take this financial awareness, this news, and I love that humbly arrive to truths about the importance of data. Then how does that iterate into this new version of you? You know, you were that data forward financial operations person. How'd you get into, I guess AI is what kicked it in, or explain this.
Yeah, basically after I left the financial services industry, which was something I never wanted to do permanently, I started working for a software provider, and I was kind of responsible for like digital transformation, because we spent a lot of digital transformation when I was in my former role. I was like translating between the developers and the clients, like the needs. And this was while this big moment where OpenAI released ChatGPT. Like, it was the moment where they released the one where everyone's like, wow, this exists. And I wasn't paying attention at all. But 6 months in, I noticed the developers of the company, they were obviously talking about it, and they were doing AI development. And I don't want to blame them. I don't want to say that's like, oh, that like you business people don't know anything about AI. It was like their thing. And I realized already, well, actually, because of ChatGPT, it's now everybody's thing. And I realized I kind of felt responsible for finding out about it. And so I could educate. And that's how it started. It started with, I'm going to do education for kids. And that was kind of fun, and little videos. And the more you get into it, the more you realize, wow, like, wow, all this stuff is kind of going on. And I didn't feel like I could do anything else. Like, once you look down that road and see what's happening and see, like, I can have a role in making the world, I don't want to say safer, but at least go in a direction that is better for a larger majority of people. Yeah, that's how I got into that, basically.
It's amazing. Is there something from your background or past experience that kind of that mission driven drive, I guess, that came for you, or is that just because of the moment with ChatGPT?
I really think it was because of the moment. I can't honestly, I can't say. I've always been like, animals and fluffy and this kind of thing. But uh, no, this really was the moment. I never imagined I would be someone that's sitting around at dinner parties and talking about AI and trying to help people understand like what's really going on. This was not, yeah, this wasn't something that I thought of, but yeah.
Think any of us did, but here we are, and AI is becoming mainstream more and more. So with that rise, everybody seemingly is talking about AI, and it's becoming more ingrained in our day-to-days. How is the role and perception of the underlying data changing, do you think, for most people? Or is it, what do people understand or misunderstand about data in this current kind of AI-driven moment?
Well, I think everyone understands that like data is, as a lot of people say, the new gold. Um,
Mhm.
Data is valuable. I think everybody understands that they're being watched. Everybody understands that they're being influenced. And like, actually, we were talking before, I don't know very much about marketing, to be honest. And I always imagine that marketers understand this, right? They understand that data is valuable because you can use it to eventually do marketing that influences people. But what people don't understand is how much AI has actually changed the game. There's always people, oh, they're just collecting my data. It doesn't matter. They know everything on me anyway. It's like, I don't think most people actually understand how powerful it is now, how many breadcrumbs can be collected. Um, and then there's one about data being neutral. A lot of people think that data is neutral, but it isn't. As a CFO, you think what people think who are not CFOs, they think that at the end of the month, you close the books and the numbers are the numbers, right? Like the results are the results. And that's the way it's often sold. But that's not actually true. There's always an interpretation. You get the numbers, and then you can always decide, like, am I going to do it this way or am I going to do it this way to get the result I want? Um, that is not neutral. Like 10 is neutral, but is it big or is it small? It depends on whether you expected a 2 or a 50, Like, so
Yeah.
that's a huge misunderstanding. People think that AI is neutral because it's based on data and data is neutral. But it's not.
This is so refreshing to me to hear this from a finance leader. 'Cause I think
I
that
was just
Jake and I are like marketers. Yeah, always. We're like, what is this? What is the, data narrative? I mean, really, it ties into this idea of telling a narrative with the data. It's not just anybody can read it, and it's the text as written. It requires some interpretation and massaging and nuance and all of those things.
But I
Um,
think what I was kind of amazed that, she's thinking that we understand this, and she's explaining how the final numbers are a bit in motion still. So it's a more of a snapshot, less of a like portrait, of a river that's in motion. I didn't think the finance people thought like that. You know what I mean? It's like the numbers are hard. You don't get any money is what it really ends up being. But I'm not thinking like they're thinking,
Well, I
and
have
that's
this
why it's so
a CFO has a lot of hats, right? And I came from the
Thought you only
controlling,
had
but
one.
no, Betty, you have. There was a CFO wears a lot of hats, right? I had the funding. I had to fund the organization, and then you have controlling, which is the interpreter, yeah. And the ones that you're thinking about, that a lot of people think that the whole finance area is like accounting and tax, and they really have to be very strict. Like these are probably the ones that you have to do it because they have to. There was always, like accounting would do to the best of their ability. They would book exactly what they thought was correct, and so would tax. And there was always this little, but could you not do it this way? Would this be okay? And obviously, you have auditors and you have laws, but there's still there's always a little and you can convince the accounting you can do it slightly different way. That's still valid. So yeah, I don't want to say like it's all flexible, but there's certain elements that are
Grounded, but interpretive, and that's why I think this next question is key, because we're looking at all the data, and I love that you said AI makes it all of our issues now.
Yeah.
The technical powers and all of that data stuff, it's yours now. So the really data pros probably have a better handle on this. That's why everyone else needs to come up to speed. But that's why I'm thinking with data, we all have that data now. How do we pick which points to point out, like which data points matter? Do you know, if we all have data, how do people get better at interpreting and shaping those data-driven narratives without like massaging it to make your ends, real, without like catching that humble pie that you had at the beginning of your career where you thought it was this and that? That happened to me too. Like, how do we pick the right data point? And then, how do you shape that stuff? Like, what's your guidance there?
Well, I think going back to what I said about the instinct, right? I think we all have an innate instinct about what we expect to see. If there's a certain professional experience based on your personal professional experience, you know what you expect, what trends you expect, or even what you want. And if something happens in line with what you expect, you still need to question it, right? Or even if it's not, something happens differently than what you expect, it's hard to say like what data points are the most important ones. Probably the ones you're not looking at is probably the most important ones. But it's just a question of always not taking it at face value, right? And it's more a mindset than a specific number. I mean, example, we met on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is obsessed with impressions and followers. And these are the data that are convinced, and we're all surrounded by data that we say this is the important one. But the chances are that, that's actually the important one, unless that's the one that's used for your bonus, which is the most important one because you get paid for.
Wink, wink.
No, but that's the thing. Like you have to question, what do you want? Like, what do you want to get from it? Like, in the case of, and this is actually what I could have answered before. How did you get into AI? Why AI? Because as a CFO, I was constantly asking myself what I had overlooked. Like I was constantly looking, what trend have I not seen? Because that was my job. Because it was nice to say what happened in the past, but the real value of a good, CFO or any leader is to be able to point to what's going to happen in the future. And obviously we're in a moment with AI where we could go in any given direction. And it's just so, fascinating to look and see what's happening that people aren't seeing. And that's what I'm constantly looking for. And for marketers, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know a lot of your work is around training and educating on these topics, and I'm thinking about what you're saying about you are coming from a standpoint of experience. You have the judgment and the critical eye to look at these things and know how to tell, the difference between what's true and what's not true. But, there are vulnerable populations or, people who are young, earlier in their careers, or kids, how are you envisioning training them who they're catapulted into this AI world where everything's available, there's a lot of, false information and, all these things out there. How do you envision a world where we're training those folks that don't have that experience and critical eye to have that?
Yeah, this is, I think, that is the biggest challenge, right? There's expectations for people. Let's start with young people, teenagers. Like, it's been a while since I've been a teenager. But one thing I remember, you have a moment where you're experimenting, right? Like, you're doing things in my time nobody saw. There wasn't even internet, but you're doing things and just kind of figure out who you are, right? And you're going to do all sorts of stuff that maybe you're not really, but you just wanted to try it. And we're in a moment where any given experiment, oh, I'm going to experiment this, and you can just immediately go down, like, be led down a hole to maybe be something that you're not really. And this is the biggest challenge, is that people have to know themselves much better than they actually do or ever have had to in the past. And this is what I'm really focused on, is trying to help people do critical thinking. And one of my mentors, his name is Bill Schmarzo, and he said it in such a nice way. Bill.
We know Bill.
He said we need to learn to be Socrates again. Like, the education always, like, question everything. And when he teaches AI, he always teaches them to question everything. It's the same, that I do. Just always ask, like, why did you say that? And just, that is the only approach I think that can work, is questions.
Completely.
I have a question too, because I was thinking about this weekend on my off time, but I was like, if we're too open-minded and questioning and flexible, if we're questioning everything, that might spin you out. Like, I wonder when that hits a limit where question everything is almost another entropy. Like, you're going to get lost in that sauce unless you know what questions to question everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, is there a limit to question everything, or are we just about to do it all?
You actually, we were thinking about the same thing on the weekend, and I'm really
good.
Because the question,
what are we doing?
Yeah, I was actually preparing a new course, and the very last one was how do I question? It's actually titled something like, how do I question everything without seeming like a conspiracy theorist?
I mean, I didn't want to say it, but
yeah, no, I can say it, because that's and the results that I'm going to say in the course, and I really believe, is you really, as you said, you have to know what to question. I'm going to give a really simple example. We were at a family Christmas party, and there we have all the generations right there. And one of them was, I don't know, 19, and he was there on his phone and watching. And then he comes with a really something about mountain lions or something, not mountain goats or something. And there's this really cool video of mountain goats, and then he showed it into the 10-year-old in front of it. He's like, she said, AI, that's AI. And her dad was like, that's AI. And he was like, no, that's not AI. They hung the the camera on the mountain goat. And everyone looked to me because they thought that I would give a definitive answer. And I don't know. Like, I honestly, that's not my specialty. And I just decided I'm not going to even try to make the point at this moment, because it didn't matter if that was AI or not. And then the same person later on, without saying what he does, he was showing examples about one of his colleagues, how they had created like deep fakes of other colleagues. And we were like, and he's like, look how real it is. And another one said, well, you probably shouldn't be caught with that on your phone. You might want to delete that, because it was like an employee's like, and And then the other one said, you see, going back to the issue of the mountain goats, and everyone started laughing, right? Because whether the mountain goats were deep fakes or not, it didn't matter. But then he came and said, well, look how great this deep fake is of my colleague. Then I'm like, that's a moment where you have to question, like, if it's a person saying something that is in any way influential, then you have to question.
It was even hard. So it reminded me of an app that was probably like 2 years old at this point. But I think it was like New York Times. I have to look up exactly what it was, but it was an app where you were supposed to fake or be able to choose swipe right, swipe left if it was an AI or image or not. And I thought I was pretty good at this at this point. I feel like I totally only got like half of them right. I was like, I can tell an AI generated like human. They were all just human faces, and I'm like, oh, I'll be able to nail this. It was really hard, and that was years ago. And now I just feel like there's this compounding effect of like these images getting better and better, and it is very hard. But you've got to always be asking, and I don't know where that ends up. But
Yeah. Hammer it home.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we even have a question to this. I mean, that's not my specialty, but the question is, we no longer live in a society where seeing is believing. And what does that mean? What does it mean that seeing is always, I was reading some philosopher about this, like where this even came from, seeing is believing. And I remember it was when the digital media started, like before digital media, why would you say seeing is believing? And then all of a sudden, if it was recorded, then
Hearing is.
yeah. And so if you could hear it, if you could see it, then it really happened.
Oh, teacher. I have something. So now if it's not in the data, it didn't happen. So maybe we have reached maybe a level of, well, we just had a conversation where finance people are sort of like picking and choosing some stuff. And then marketing people are picking and choosing some stuff. And then here's the data, here's the reports. And they're like, all right, that's facts. And you're like, we've been doing this for a while at the data level. Maybe the data level is the way we get out of it. You know what I mean? Like, is there some kind of the data is the destiny or something? Or can data lie too? I mean,
well, we said at the beginning, data's open to interpretation, right? It's like, that's
yes.
Well,
now
full circle.
Well,
question everything.
No, exactly. No, I think it's a question of where the data, a lot of will come from. I believe this. I actually believe this strongly, especially for young people, that the key will be helping them understand where the data actually comes from. When I was thinking about this question about what has changed in the perception, and what I said about data being neutral, people think that AI is neutral as well. And they don't understand, like, there's like probably hundreds of thousands of people that are just labeling the data, and they're not putting their opinion in, they're putting the opinion of someone that told them. I spoke to data labelers in Kenya, and they mentioned about beautiful. They had to label beautiful. And it's not that they're like, oh, someone says, sit down and tell me if you think a person is beautiful or not. No, they get a picture of a person, and they are told to say, this is beautiful. And the specific example that they gave is there are these, the lead actors of, what is it? The Marvel Wakanda,
Avengers.
The Wakanda one, Black Panther.
Oh, Black Panther.
Yeah. And they said if the Black Panther actor would come up, or there's a famous actress, they would have to put not beautiful. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. And
man.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's the thing about neutral, and that's the challenge with data in general. I mean, going back to data, is it's a very difficult balance between your instinct and what the data says. And sometimes, and you also have to be able to take a step back from your ego sometimes, because you can have 20 years of experience, and all of a sudden the data can say something different, and it could be right, and it could have been wrong for 20 years and thinking something, and that's not always easy. for everyone. But especially in a moment where we're questioning everything, really the most important thing we can do is take a deep breath and see what facts can actually lead us to what's actually happening. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so fascinating, and it's so true though that the models are trained from a point of view, humans train the models, to your point. I think that's really important for people to understand. And the there are biases like inherently built into those. So just on the flip side, maybe to turn it around to something positive, while we're aware of these I guess pitfalls that we need to be aware of and constantly be questioning. Do you have an example of where you've seen data meaningfully improve outcomes or protect communities, and what's something that stands out to you on that front?
Yes, I have actually a really nice example that I discovered the existence of, what is it, computational social scientists. Do you know what computational social scientists are?
I
There's a
love it.
Yeah, there's a very famous one. I mean, I don't know. He's famous for me because he's the reason I know about it. And he's in the California Davis. Martin Hilbert, I think is his name. And he has this series on YouTube, like his courses on YouTube. And basically, what he was explaining is social scientists were like the laughing stock of scientists because they didn't have any data, right? They would have to go out and collect really
Oh,
slowly, and
Mhm.
all
rough.
of a sudden, we have the information age, and social scientists have so much more data than anybody else now. Yeah. And they can use it. And it's for me, the most fascinating thing to think about, that they can use all, because we do talk about data in a negative. I mean, the people
Mm.
in my life talk about data in a negative way, how tech is using it and we're being controlled and everything. But there's also the other side. There was a concrete example he gave in this course about one of his colleagues who use it to map, I don't remember, some city or country in Africa. And they showed the example beforehand that they had the map of the population based on the census, which, because it was so expensive, this was done every, I don't know, 50 years or something. And
Wow.
it wasn't very good. But then they said, okay, let's take the phone data, because everyone's got a phone, even if it's like a dumb phone. And they did the census based on the phone, like where the phones are. And they were actually able to do a proper map of this city and know where the people are.
Wow.
And yeah, and they were able to actually distribute much better resources because they can take the data and really assess what's really going on. So there is this positive side as well. If a proper person has the data in their hands, they can see the trends are happening exactly how it's used for negative. It can also be used for positive, right? Um, and yeah, that's absolutely fascinating for me. Like computational social scientists are really
So
fascinating for
interesting.
me.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
look him up.
I would love that. Well, and kind of what you said is there's a sense that someone needs to have on the ground experience with data and then a way to translate to the team. Did you just describe digital transformation? I think you did. Did
Yeah.
you just describe like people breaking out of silos and working? I think you did. Did you find a way to like get that data that you're not looking for? I think you did. I mean, if you're wondering what's in this for you, audience, it's only the fact that data is not just neutral, but it's this key. And it unlocks so much positive stuff. I think I'm using data to prevent being blamed or
Yeah.
shamed for things, and but what Angeline is saying is you can actually find really good things. Me and Jess, I think we're pretty good examples of looking at data and finding ways to improve situations and not live in the territory of the map. It's like I'm grateful that I have these two people in my life because you keep me honest. All right, let's go to this next question because we have to move on. It's nighttime in Italy. I think you mentioned and maybe touched on this, but the final question here is if you could just change one thing about how people think about data. Again, data, what do you mean? But Just go with it. What do you think it would be? Just one thing.
Well, really going back to this fact that data isn't neutral. What I was thinking when you were talking about marketers is that it is, marketers are by definition creative people, right? Creative. And if you have in your
Yeah.
mind that data is this boring thing that is black and white, then you're not gonna want it, right? You're not gonna to like get this away from me. But there's so many things that you can do, and you can have your creative ideas about what something is or what something can be, and you can use data to check. You can see the data and say, "Ooh, I wonder what I can learn about what the people really want from what's in the data." And with a creative mind can do that. And maybe a traditional CFO accountant type wouldn't do that because they want to see the black and white. But and yeah,
I'm not going to let you off because you just inspire me. One more thing. As a CFO, what do you want to hear from CMOs? What do you want to hear from the marketers? Like, how can we represent in your world as more serious people? Because I love that you just painted us as little Shakespeare's and Virginia Woolfs and like, oh, they're all artists. We
well,
also want to be taken seriously. So how can we do that to you finance people?
I mean, really get creative. It is, I know a lot of people aren't going to like to hear this, but with the data, try to own it. Try to really find what, because there's so many different aspects of the data that you can look at. Best thing is to work with someone in controlling who knows the data. CFOs don't usually know the data. They know the high level. They don't know the details.
Right.
Of course,
Good key point.
so you need to talk to someone who knows the details and go in and say, I want to know this, or I want to know, do you have something that could represent this? And then do your own like analysis with the support of the people who have practiced using data, and then surprise the CFO with like, I've looked at the data, and have hopefully respectful like back and forth about how you're going to assess it. Because this is what would be ideal, I think, is not any one person can see everything and know everything. And for me, the best thing that could have happened was someone came from marketing or from sales, and they came and said, I was just looking at the data and I think this, and you were like,
Come here.
yes. I'm so
Let's talk.
happy. That's why I do my work, so you can look at the data and find things that I didn't see. Thank you. That's what we want.
Amazing.
I
A true
feel
partnership.
I feel seen. I think we're seeing each other. So Angeline, you're amazing. Thank you so much
you.
for this. Everything you're doing needs to be
Thank you.
supported. How can people follow you and connect online?
Well, I'm only on LinkedIn.
Only.
I'm online safety, and I'm not on any other social medias. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. You can look that for me, and then you can see my initiatives, Shield, and Data Girl and Friends, and Gen R. I've got many things up my sleeve, looking from different perspectives. So that's why LinkedIn is the best place to look.
Cheese or chocolate?
Are you ready?
Yes,
Cheese or chocolate?
cheese.
Okay. Open-ended or multiple choice?
Multiple choice.
Is it, you didn't want to give an open-ended answer, did you?
Probably because I work in multiple languages and I have an aversion to open.
Yeah, you just say B or C. Okay, that's good. All right, that's good. What do you think, Jess? Are you open-ended or multiple choice?
If I'm being graded, I want multiple choice. I want the structure of like it's right or it's wrong. No room
think
for
you're right.
interpretation.
I know. Yeah. Who wants to just blab on? I do, but I don't even like open-ended questions. Okay, go on. Take time to enjoy or on to the next awesome thing.
I have to admit that I'm the on to the next awesome thing kind of person. I don't always
No
like
shame.
it, but yeah, that's how I am.
As I was writing this, I was like, I bet you think you're the take the time guy, but
You-
you're not.
Yeah.
Jess, are you taking it slow or are you on?
Kind of a take time to enjoy type of person. I have a lot of things spinning, but I try to enjoy them all. I don't know. I think that was my initial inclination.
You're pretty good. You're a good role model. Okay, here we go. Coffee or tea?
Depends on who's making the coffee.
Are you this single
Connoisseur.
serve kind of 20-minute
Well,
press?
I am an American that lives in Italy, and you could not be more different than American coffee and Italian coffee.
Oh yeah.
So true.
And there's certain types of American coffee I absolutely cannot stand, and certain types of Italian coffee I cannot stand. I'm like this middle thing, so then I'll take the tea.
Okay. Just it's environment based, I guess is what you're saying.
Yes.
All right. What's on offer? Jess, are you coffee tea?
You
What do
know,
do?
I'm like constant coffee, like all day long. No, I kind of do a
Again,
cutoff. I do a cutoff, but 1 o'clock, like no coffee.
That's
after that.
good.
But
That's very responsible. That's advocacy. All right. 2 more. Turtle or tortoise?
Turtle. Do you know I
Hmm.
have 2 turtles back here watching?
No.
Let me see if I
Can
can
we
turn
see?
that screen. Yeah,
Can
But
we
they're
see
there.
turtles?
There they are.
I love
How
that.
did I know?
Right.
That was a great question.
There
How
they
did I-
are.
and
The very
Those are my
very
mental
kind of
health
vision.
turtles. Yeah.
I
those-
know. I love. So a tortoise would not be the same. That thing's just like walking over the garage, or like, what is it doing? Like,
Yeah.
get out of here.
less
They're just-
containable.
Sunning and swimming all day long.
Oh, I love
As
turtles.
they're either swimming. Sometimes they're actually even. I'll just move over so you can keep the turtles. Sometimes they're really interested in the meeting, and they actually will swim towards the screen. Once I was being interviewed for a Nigerian TV show, and for 15 minutes the turtles were swimming toward the screen.
Very
Like a bellwether.
interested.
Are they interested in us, or are they running in the
Yeah,
other?
I wish you hadn't told us that.
I know,
'cause they
now
don't
they're
look
not.
like
like
they're
sorry,
moving.
they're
Yeah.
swimming.
Well,
away.
it's kind of cold now. Yeah, so their water's colder than usual, so they're not
Mhm.
interested in very much.
Sweet little turtles.
That's
Oh,
so cute.
I love that. Okay, all right. Finally, and you know, not even contentiously, hedgehog or porcupine?
Porcupine.
Interesting.
I didn't. Me and Jess are like shocked for some
I'm
reason.
like-
We'll talk about that afterwards. Like, why were we both so shocked? Porcupine, why?
I just think they're interesting animals, honestly. I don't
Get
How-
to know them.
I get now.
You know, what are you
Okay.
about, porcupine? I want a question. I want to know more
Exactly.
about you.
What do you do with
Okay.
all those needles?
Just tell me more. What is going on with that? And the baby ones. Let's talk about it. Oh, that wasn't the right answer, but I think that was good.
I don't
All
know
right.
much about hedgehogs, honestly.
I just know they're
Oh, so-
adorable, and so that's what I would have picked. But I think
Mhm.
porcupines are probably adorable too. Maybe.
See, probably adorable too. Like, woo. No,